Okay, so what we're going to be looking at today is the battles of the Civil War. I told you that this was going to be a 90-day war, right? They really thought it would be over in 90 days. But when we looked at the advantages and disadvantages, can the South really afford a long war? Why not? They don't have the resources. Can the North afford a long war? Yes, because they have the food. They could wait them out. And so today we're going to be looking at what really happened and how did this war go into 4 years. And it really starts, the war really starts with Fort Sumter on April 12th. Wait, when was Lincoln elected? What month? What month do we usually elect a president? November, right? Once he was elected, who was the first state to go? South Carolina leaves. They said that was the last thing, right? Have they been threatening secession? Yes. Over and over and over again. So they leave, and then 6 other states leave. Okay? Those 6 states are all in the pink. So Fort Sumter, when it happened, they didn't have enough what? What are they lacking by April 12th? Supplies. Specifically what? Is it to fight or is it to eat? They've eaten all of their stuff that they've had from November to April. So Lincoln writes a letter. He says, Jefferson Davis, I'm going to send provisions. What should he have said? Food. Can someone at Fort Sumter go knock on its neighbor's door in South Carolina saying, hey, we need some butter and sugar? No. And so this is why Lincoln says, I'm going to send a letter. He says provisions. Isn't that kind of provoking war? Because Jefferson Davis is going to think, what? Weapons. So they attack on the fort, and we're going to see the fort surrenders. It can't deal with this. It doesn't have enough stuff. It is being attacked. So both sides, the impact is that they start preparing for war. The impact on the North is these states that had not left, Virginia, North Carolina, Tennessee, and Arkansas, now leave to the South. This is going to give Lincoln a problem because who did he want to appoint as general? Lee, and Lee's home state is, so he goes to the Confederacy. And now both sides start to prepare for war. What we're going to see is that the South, they really think this war is going to be over in 90 days. So the North, which you have as this image, is going to prepare a battle plan. And it's called the Anaconda Plan. So let's look at this snake. I want you to look at where the snake's tail is. It's around, not DC, no, it's in Richmond. So there is a question on your study guide that says, explain the Union's strategy of the war. Number 4, right? What do they need to capture? Richmond. And once they capture Richmond, they think the war would be over, right? Hey, let's look at this part of the snake right here. What is this part of the snake preventing? Preventing stuff from leaving and getting in. It's a blockade. They are blocking the South from getting what in? What do they need? What type of supplies? Food and what? Weapons. What is it preventing the South from sending out? Cotton. Blockade would prevent it from having war, right? Is this the most deadliest part of a snake? What do you always fear of the snake? Okay, so let's look at the head. The head's way over here, right? And it's on a river called the Mississippi. Okay, did y'all ever think that the Mississippi was important? Yeah. It's important. It's a river. Why do we need rivers? Oh, they move supplies? Okay, so this is going to take me to question 20 on 20 study guide, number 11. Napoleon. Did y'all find that weird that Napoleon was on the study guide? Okay, Napoleon, what do we know that he's done in Europe? He's trying to conquer everything. One of the things that Napoleon has done is also in Mexico. Mexico has fallen. And he comes in and takes over Mexico. Did any of y'all know that Napoleon came into Mexico? No. Have anybody ever been to Mexico City? No one's ever been to in Mexico City. It's very Parisian downtown because when Napoleon comes here, he wants to bring Paris to Mexico. So he's going to do the whole avenue. And he's going to put in a guy named Maximilian. He puts in a guy named Maximilian in power. Can now Napoleon trade with the South? He's going to go up I-35, right? Because I-35 used to be a trail back then. It's going to come all the way up to Dallas, right? It's going to go down I-20 to a specific city right here on the Mississippi River called Vicksburg. So, by Napoleon taking over Mexico, what can Napoleon bring in to the south? Supplies such as what? Weapons, and what else do they need? Food. And they come to Texas. What does Texas have a lot of that can help the Confederacy? I always see them roaming on the plains. Cattle. So Texas and Mexico are really important to the Civil War because what do they supply? The cattle, the food, and what else? Weapons that are secretly coming in through what nation? This is a violation of the Monroe Doctrine because was Napoleon even supposed to be here? So now I want us to think and reflect on the head. Why are we putting the head here on the Mississippi? What are we trying to capture? The river, because if we capture the river and the Union controls it, what is the South not going to get?
Anything.
Anything. What is it? What says anything? Substantiate. They're not going to get what?
Any imports.
Weapons. They're not going to get food. They're not going to get beef. And if they don't get this, what can't they wage? So that's the third part of the plan. Capture the Mississippi. Okay? Okay. Are y'all good with this? Okay. There's a couple of ones. It says how many things?
6.
6. Okay. The next thing they want to do is they're going to start over here in Chattanooga. And they're going to start taking the railroads. They're going to chop up the Confederacy. How many of you ever watched the movie Gone with the Wind? Any of y'all? At the end of the Gone with the Wind, they're burning everything to the ground. If you were a soldier and you're from this area and you heard that everything was being burnt down by the soldiers, would you stay fighting? What are you going to do? Run home to what? Protect your family. So they're going to try to divide up the Confederacy. Then the next thing is they're going to do total war. They're going to start obliterating everything. So now you understand the last little bit of Gone with the Wind, why they're burning everything down. Okay, there's one more thing, because how many do we have now? We have blockade, right? Capture Richmond. Capture what river?
Mississippi.
Okay. Then we have chop the Confederacy into pieces by doing what? Total war. The next thing is liberate the slaves, which eventually you're going to see with the Emancipation Proclamation, right? But we'll talk about that later because it really didn't emancipate any slaves. No. All right. The sixth thing is send troops to Georgia and Alabama. Okay. Is this a long-range war plan?
Yes.
So how many fronts are we going to have? We have one right here, right? And then we have one right here, the Western Front. And this is how we're going to break up our notes today to talk about the war. Do y'all get this plan? The Anaconda plan. Okay, so let's start the war. This is just their game plan. Our first battle is at question number 1 on our study guide is where was the Battle of Bull Run? I want us to look here. Here's the Battle of Bull Run. Is it close? What is it close to? 30 miles south. Is that doable for a soldier to walk?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, McClellan would train his soldiers to be able to do 36 miles in a day. Okay, they're moving. So this is doable. It's 30 miles south, and this is on July 21st, 1861. Most of our war will be fought when? In the summer or the winter? The summer. So this is July 21st. Wait, are we almost to a whole year from that election? Okay, so what happens, you have to know a lot of things about Bull Run. I don't know if y'all caught this in the book. Our soldiers are going to leave D.C. Is that the only group of people who leaves D.C.? Did y'all catch in the book that spectators actually come? They come, and they come with their picnic baskets, right? Because at this time, had anybody seen a war before? So people are really interested. They're coming here, and they're coming with their dates and their picnic baskets. And we have 1,000, yes,
Wasn't it also the first battle to have pictures taken?
Yes, and it's the first battle that we actually have the machine gun, not machine gun, but like the rifle that we could get more in and shoot and be more accurate. So people want to see there's all these new technologies that are coming out. Okay, so people want to see, so we have a lot of people from DC leaving. They're coming here. They're setting up on this plane with their picnic baskets. They're putting out their blankets, right? Okay, who has the better soldier, the South or the North? Who has more soldiers? Okay, so the Southern soldier wins. Great, what should they press on and do? Go where? Go to DC, can they get there in a day? Yes. Okay, the Union soldier, are they the best soldier? So what do you think they do when the Southerners are winning? They run away. Let's talk about these spectators now. They see the Union soldiers running away. What do? They run too, but do they pack their picnic basket? Do they pick up their date and say, okay, let's put your jacket on, let's fold this stuff up, and let's walk together? Do they do that? What do? They leave their stuff, they kick the girl down, let them take her, right? And then they run, okay? Now there's a problem. You said they should press on the Southern soldier to what? But what is surrounding the battlefield now? Spectators who have left what? So they're like DC, and I want you to think, a lot of y'all are in sports, a lot of y'all are in band in this class. After y'all have a performance, what are y'all usually? Hungry. And even before the performance, you're hungry, right? So they feed you before, they feed you after. So now I have all these soldiers that have been involved in this battle, and they're like, man, go to DC today, picnic baskets. Go to DC today, picnic baskets. What do? They sit down and have a picnic.
I would have done the same.
Like after you eat, just like Thanksgiving, how did you feel? Tired. Some of you are like, oh, I just need to go take a nap. Some of you are like, no, I need what? Dessert. Was there much dessert left? No, so they deserted. I want us to think, who won the Battle of Bull Run? The South, but did they really?
No.
Why not? Why didn't the South really win Bull Run? Because they could have won more by going where? But y'all say they didn't win because what did they do after this battle?
Had a picnic.
They had a picnic. And what did that do to their morale?
Made them sleepy.
Made them sleepy. They're like, did they need to press on to DC?
Nah.
No. Remember I said this could have been a 90-day war, right? But what got in their way?
Picnic.
Because let's look at their disadvantages.
So
I know they had a Yogi Bear moment at this time. But what was one of their biggest disadvantage? Lack of food. Okay, so now, now we got Battle of Bull Run, and you're going to remember it. So what impact did the Battle of Bull Run have on the South? Are they confident or are they underconfident?
Overconfident.
They're overconfident. And what happened to the soldiers? They what? Sat down, ate. Some of them went to sleep. Some of them did what? They deserted for dessert, right? Did they press on to DC? And it's this mistake here that could have ended the war at this moment. For the North, what do you think this impact? What were our soldiers doing? Running. What do you think they're going to realize we need to do with our soldiers? Train them to stay and fight, right? So this is going to lead to the North to realize that we need to buckle down and train better. What's going to happen to the general that was in charge of this, McDowell? Fired, and we're going to get a new general. So if you look at the bottom of your Eastern, do y'all see where it says the Eastern Front? And you see McDowell there, and then it's like McClellan, Pope, McClellan, Burnside, Hooker, Meade, then Grant. Is he having a lot of trouble with his generals controlling his army? And so we're going to see a lot of them get fired, but the war could have been over at this moment. But what got in the way? The food, the picnic baskets. So, okay, do y'all get this one? So now is the war going to be long?
Yes.
Because what has happened to the Southern soldier? Got distracted by the food. Okay, The next thing on our notes is about naval warfare. Naval warfare, this is the first time we're ever going to see ships have iron sides. And many people start to freak out. So there's two boats on y'all's notes. One is called the Merrimack, and that's the southern boat. It has iron sides. Why do you think they put iron sides? If I'm going back to this image, why do you think they put iron sides on the sides of the boats? Because they wanted to. They wanted it to look shiny.
Yeah, to extra armor.
Extra armor, so they were going to do what?
Fight.
Look, they're going to break the blockade. That is why they put iron on the sides of ships. Okay, the next one, so the Merrimack is from the south, because will they be merry if they could get through this blockade? Because what would they bring in? Food, supplies, weapons, okay? The Monitor, if I think about Monitor, it monitors, right? It's going to have a pivotal gun, and that is from the north. Because at this time, most cannons were where? Sides of your boats, right? And so if you were going to move your boat to actually start a battle, they would know about your movements, because it's not like Battleship where you just turn around. You actually had to go out, turn around. But now with the Monitor having a pivotal gun, can it shoot without people being able to prepare? These are two modern technologies that are developed from the Civil War that nowhere else. So are the British kind of fearful now?
Yeah.
Yes, because they haven't had metal sides. They hadn't had this pivotal gun.
Now, only if we can bind them,
It would be too heavy.
then we win.
Okay. Y'all got Battle of Bull Run? Okay. So, I'm going to focus on the Western Front. That is the first thing on your note set. That is going to take us down to the back side of our study guide. I want us to go back to the Anaconda Plan. What are we trying to do in the Western Front? What are we trying to capture? Because what is coming into the Mississippi from Texas and Mexico? Food, what else? Materials, what type of materials? Okay, guns, weapons, stuff to fight a war. So, is this front really important?
Yeah.
Yes, but is it as important as the Eastern Front? No. So, what's going to happen is Lincoln is going to put a lesser general here. And the general he puts here is Grant. And I know a lot of you are just like, what? Grant? We know him as a great general. But actually, Grant was the bottom of his class at West Point. Every time they sent him out into military excursions, if it was for the West, he was always with the bottle and he was always getting in trouble. So there's a time in the war that they suspend him and they put him in a desk job. Lincoln did not trust Grant. But Grant's whole mission is to capture the rivers, right? So when I look at question 13, it says, what is the significance of each of the battles? Let's look at Fort Henry. Can y'all tell me what river flows into Fort Henry? Is the river important to the Southerners? That's the way they get stuff in and out. So Fort Henry, the reason why it's important is because he's able to capture the Tennessee River. Okay? And it's Grant's first success, right? Once you have success once, it's easier to get the next one. Then they go to Fort Donelson. Do y'all see Fort Donelson here? What river is it? Once he gets this river, the South is going to get less what? Resources. So he's capturing the rivers. If you capture the rivers, will the South be able to get resources? And so they're going to come. They have two guys. Grant is working from the north, and Farragut is working from the south. But he's in New Orleans. Do you think New Orleans is going to be well fortified? He can't get out of here. They're supposed to rally to this place called Vicksburg. Remember when I was telling you Napoleon had taken over Mexico? And they came up I-35 and y'all laughed at me? And they went down I-20. If you ever make that journey down I-20 to Mississippi and Louisiana, Vicksburg is right there. Vicksburg is where all the food, all the munition, all the cattle come in. This is the lifeline to the South. And basically, he's going to work down through Shiloh. And at Shiloh, we're gonna see he kills tons of soldiers. But his whole thing is that does he have good soldiers or bad soldiers? Does he have a little bit of soldiers or a lot of soldiers? He says, if I just keep on throwing my soldiers at them, they'll eventually back down. So he gets the nickname unconditional surrender, because what is he going to use all the time?
Brute force.
Brute force. He's going to throw a lot of his soldiers, so what is going to happen to his death tolls? They're going to be high, because he is not going to give in on any conditions until they surrender and say, we're done fighting. So this is why on 20, why did people criticize Grant's exploits? Because he's going to kill a lot of what? Soldiers. Because he is going to have this nickname, unconditional surrender. He gets them to surrender by just using his soldiers. So Shiloh is where he gets this nickname. And then, for God, still out here in New Orleans. I want you to look at the date of Vicksburg. What date is it? What do we know is also synonymous with July 4th? Independence Day. He captures Vicksburg. That ends the South from getting what three things? Ammunition, food, cattle. I want you to think, will the South celebrate the 4th of July? No, because it becomes synonymous with the day that they lost what? Vicksburg was all the stuff that they needed to achieve their own independence. For about the next 100 years, the 4th of July will not be celebrated in the South because of this. Right? Has he been doing good? Why was he put over here? Was he the best general or not best?
No.
What do you think is going to happen to him after Vicksburg?
Shoot up, right?
He's going to shoot up in rank? Do you think they're going to keep him over here?
No.
He's captured this. Where is he going to get promoted to? Eastern Front. Grant will get promoted to the Eastern Front. Okay? So do y'all get Vicksburg? So now, we need to keep on going back to the Anaconda Plan. Sherman will be promoted to finish out the Western Front. Sherman gets promoted and he's going to go to Chattanooga. I always remember Chattanooga kind of reminds me of the railroad, right? Just the way it sounds. This is where the railroad starts. Why is Chattanooga important to get? We don't have rivers here, but what does the railroad do? Transports what? Food, supplies, and do they meet that?
Yeah.
So Sherman, what he's going to do is he's going to capture Chattanooga and goes down towards where the railroad is, Atlanta. And then he's going to do his march from his seat, from Atlanta to Savannah. And this is what's going on in Gone with the Wind. What does he decide to do from this march from Atlanta to Savannah? Burn everything down to the ground. The railroads, he's capturing them, but does he leave them on the ground? What do they do with the railroads?
Rip them up.
Rip them up. Can they use that metal somewhere else? Anything that they could possibly use for war. Houses, fields, they're burning to the ground. What is that doing to the soldiers' morale? Lowering it. Are they going to stay on fighting on the lines? They're going to head back home. Is he causing disarray?
Yes.
So do y'all get 14 now? Okay, so Sherman, and it's 60 miles according to the book, but it's a lot wider when we look at it from history, where he's going to destroy $100 million in property. Okay? Is it going to be hard for the South to rebuild later?
Yes.
Okay, so now let's move to the Eastern Front. How do y'all feel about our notes now? Okay, we're now on the Eastern Front. And one of the things I have up here, why did McDowell get fired? What happened at Bull Run? They ran away. So he's going to bring in a guy named McClellan. He's top of his class at West Point. He's a great administrator. He's also a great educator of soldiers. So he's going to train them. What is he going to train the soldiers not to do? Run away, because that's what they did at Bull Run. But McClellan has some issues. And I know some of you have this issue, that when y'all start writing a piece of paper and y'all mess up, you want to throw away the whole paper and start over. Some of you are shaking your head. Some of you are, I don't care, I'll scratch it out and just keep on going. Some people are like, oh, I have that issue. I need to get the white out, right over it, right? that's kind of like a perfectionist tendency. That's what McClellan's going to have. That he doesn't want to move his troops because he wants his troops to be what? Perfect. Does he have some bad incidents prior to this of why he needs his soldiers to be good?
Yeah.
Bull Run. So McClellan is going to have something called the slows. And I know that sounds like a bad bowel movement or something. Okay? But what it is the slows, can he make any decisions and move forward? No. So his actions are really, really slow. So we're going to see he's going to lead the thing called the Peninsular Campaign. And what the Peninsular Campaign, is, do y'all see how Virginia has all these little peninsulas? He's supposed to be chasing down Lee and getting Lee to surrender. But is he fast? No, there was one day that they came to a river. They're like, do you think our horses would get through this? And they're contemplating, should we go over the river with our horses or should we not go over the river with our horses? Is that a perfectionist tendency? One of the soldiers walks in, he's like knee high. He's like, we could go through the river. Then he gets and he corners Lee. And it's foggy. Do you think he wants to fight Lee at that day? No, he turns around. There's one day that his cannons can't get over the bridge. And he says, okay, we can't fight. Do you think Lincoln's going to be happy with him? No, Lincoln writes him a letter saying, hurry up, with your kindest regards, attack. And so Lee knows that, is McClellan kind of like underconfident in his abilities? So Lee attacks him by surprise. And we see Lee will become the commander of this after it because McClellan has the slows. McClellan, because of his slows, what do you think is going to happen to him? Fired. Lincoln's done with him and brings in Pope. And Pope will do the second battle of Bull Run. How close is Bull Run to D.C.? 30 miles, right? Can you do that in a day? Yes. What do you think they learned from the first battle of Bull Run? Don't let the soldiers what? Run back. They also had to fortify this river. They put the army, they put the navy here. So Pope wins, but Pope loses, but can the Confederacy get into D.C.? No. And this is when we're going to see that Lee is going to learn, I can't get in the front door. So how do I have to get into D.C.? The back door. And so if we look at question 5, who won the second battle of Bull Run? It's Lee. He's going to try to thrust into Maryland, but can he get in the front door? And this makes him realize when he thrusts into Maryland, he can't get in, so what does he have to do? Go around. He has to get in the back door. And so he says, if I could get in the back door and win this battle, maybe the foreigners will help me out. So that's number 6. He's going to thrust into Maryland. He's going to try to go in the back door to get foreign intervention. But there's a problem. He's coming this way around to a battle at Antietam. Do most generals write what they want to do down? Yes, they do. Lee hands his plans with his cigars to one of his soldiers. We see Pope has a new guy. He's out. A new guy comes in, McClellan. What was his problem? Slows, perfectionists. 2 of his soldiers are scouts. They're going out to look for stuff. And on their mission, they're actually going to the restroom. So do they want to get away from people? So they go far away from people because they have to do their business. And amidst doing their business on their way back, they found a piece of paper with cigars in it. They're like, cool, cigars. And most time, and I know y'all don't smoke cigars, but most time people put cigars in little boxes so it could keep the flavor. Lee put his cigars in his plans so the flavor could stay in. So those guys are like, cool, we got some cigars, let's go smoke them. And they open it up, and what do they realize they have? Lee's war plan. So who do they take it to? McClellan. And what do we know McClellan's problem is? Slows, because he wants to be a what? Perfectionist. They hand the plans over to McClellan. McClellan's okay, we could do it. I know that they're going to come in Antietam and come in the back door. And you have to understand the geography of Antietam. Antietam is a valley. And I want you to think, if you were to have soldiers is it only your soldiers you're bringing to battle?
No.
What else are you bringing?
Ammunition. Weapons.
Ammunition, your cargo, your horses, your oxen, your cannons, the whole shebang, right? So where do you march your army? You march them on the hillside or in the valley?
Valley.
In the valley. Oh, some of y'all say hillside. Have you ever tried to march on a hill with a horse?
You ever try walking on a hill?
Yeah, walking on a hill sideways? Is that good? Where are you going to have your fastest speed? In the valley. So Lee says, okay, we're going to come through Antietam, go through the valley to get back through D.C.
There's a problem with that.
Problem with that, because now McClellan has his plans. Where is McClellan going to put his
The high
troops?
ground.
McClellan puts them here. And when they come through the valley, what's going to occur?
Ambush.
Ambushed. Okay. Okay. McClellan's like, wow, I got lucky there, right? He got really lucky. And we're going to see, let's look at 6. What gave McClellan the advantage in the Battle of Antietam? He had what? Lee's plans. So, who won the battle?
Lee. No.
It was kind of a draw, right? McClellan's really going to think, I won. But really, did he?
No.
No. But what this is going to be the springboard for, this is going to be the springboard for the Emancipation Proclamation. And I always remember Antietam, I remember American Eagle. Because Antietam leads to the Emancipation Proclamation. And the eagle flies, right, to be free. Okay, so let's look at what did the Emancipation Proclamation declare. A lot of y'all put forever free. Really? Were they forever free? Because where Lincoln could abolish slavery, did he? He only abolished slavery where? In the Confederate States. So a lot of you need to update your number 8, saying that he only freed the states, slaves in the states of the Confederacy. Does he have any authority there? No. So did he really break the shackles of slavery this day? So this is why on 9, when was emancipation legally achieved? A lot of you told me 1865, right? It's not, the year doesn't happen and the slaves are ready, hooray, it's January 1st, I'm free. It happens in the 13th Amendment. So let's look at the reaction of people. Southern slaves. What's going to happen when they hear of this? Okay, they're going to be happy, and thousands of them will leave and join whose army? Union. Abolitionists. Are they going to be happy with this?
Yes.
Did he really abolish slavery?
Oh, no.
No. Where he could, did he? And where he couldn't, did he?
Yes.
But could he do it there?
No.
So a lot of them are upset because did he really go far enough?
No.
No. To the Southerners, how did they feel?
Rage.
They're upset because what do we know about the value of a slave?
Worth a car.
They're worth their car. They're $1,000.
Right.
Okay. In Europe, how did the workers feel? Did they support Lincoln or were they against Lincoln? They supported them because they wanted the abolition of slavery because what book had they read? Uncle Tom's Cabin. Now, can the foreign nations actually help out the Confederacy? No. Lincoln, for a long time, did not want to say anything about slavery. At the start of the war, and I promise you this is a test question, he's saying, I'm fighting this war for union. Has the tone of the war changed now? Yes, because he's saying now it's about slavery, right? Which we've known all along, was it about slavery? Yes, but they kept on saying all these other issues have led to this division. But now, is it truly about slavery or is it just a little inkling? Okay, and we're going to get to something else where he comes around. Okay, so Lincoln gives the Emancipation Proclamation. The South feels bad. Okay, is Lee desperate now? Because who's not going to come to help him? Foreign aid, because he's taken a stance on slavery. So what we're going to see is that this is the bloodiest day of war, and leads to Emancipation Proclamation. He is going to try to get around and come the back door into D.C.
Oh, I've heard of those.
Hey, how many of you have ever watched Remember the Titans? Hey, somebody, oh my gosh, it's less than y'all, okay? Remember the coach, he takes him out to Gettysburg?
Yeah.
And he's coming to Gettysburg because he wants him to look at this site. There's several reasons we're going to talk about today. But Gettysburg is actually where a railroad comes in. This railroad goes straight into D.C. So what is he trying to prevent D.C. from getting? Supplies, soldiers, so that D.C. would do what? Won't be fortified and he can invade. We're going to see this is his last attempt to get foreign recognition. But this battle is so deadly. And I want you to look at the dates. It is July 1st to July 3rd. Tell me another battle that you know that is near those dates. Vicksburg, July 4th. They lost Vicksburg, so what do they lose?
Everything.
They lose what? What's everything? Substantiate.
Their supplies.
Their supplies, their food, their cattle. Now they lose Vicksburg. They can't get into that railroad, right? Are they doomed? This is July 1st. Do you think Gettysburg is going to be well fortified?
Yes.
Well fortified. What are they going to do with the men? What have they learned from Grant? Train them well, but what do? Don't surrender. Just keep on sending your men. So what is going to happen to the death toll?
It's gonna rise.
It's going to rise. And so one of the things we have to talk about is that did Lincoln really take a tough stance on the Emancipation Proclamation? No. But Lincoln's going to change at Gettysburg. One of the things that we don't think about is what happens to all these dead bodies.
They're alive.
Okay. What do we need to do with them? Bury them? Okay. Is someone going to come and quickly do this really fast? No. Okay, I want you to think it's summer. It's like Texas here. Okay. What usually happens to stuff outside in Texas if you leave it out for too long? It decays. Okay. And if you've ever done this before, if you leave like a bottle out there in the extreme heat, what's going to happen to the bottle? It's going to explode. So we have all of these dead bodies out there sitting in the heat. Pennsylvania is kind of like Texas in the heat. So what do they have to do with all those bodies? What do they have to do with all the bodies? They have to bury them. Are they going to discriminate between Union and Confederate soldier? No, because they can't just send all those back to the Confederacy. And so what's going to happen is they're going to do massive graves. They're going to pick up all the bodies, put them in the shade so they don't what? Explode. And they're going to start digging these massive graves. And we're going to see both sides buried together. And this is why in Remember the Titans, he takes them down there. Because do we have opposing sides? Which we'll eventually, we'll watch that video at the end of the year. We'll eventually see that he's trying to take these opposing sides and bring them together. And so when we bury the dead, usually what happens? Burial, yes. But what usually happens? You just bury them and leave?
Yeah. Funeral? Is that what you're talking
There's a
about?
funeral, right? And what happens in the funeral?
The casket gets buried.
They mourn, they give speeches, right? So what's happened, it basically took from July all the way to November for this massive gravesite to be built. They're going to do eulogies here. I think Emerson's invited to do the long speech. They didn't know if Lincoln was going to come, but Lincoln does come. They didn't even have Lincoln as a speaker, but they were like, oh my gosh, the president's here. We should let him talk. So Lincoln does prepare something, and we're going to read this because this is really what's going to change the war. We thought the Emancipation Proclamation was going to change the war, but it's actually the Gettysburg Address. What time does the bell ring?
36.
Okay, so I have enough time to get through Gettysburg. Okay. So it says on June 1st, 1865, Charles Sumner, y'all should know that guy. Why do y'all know that guy? He got beaten by Preston Brooks. Commented how it is considered the most famous speech by President Abraham Lincoln. In his eulogy of the slain president, he called it a monumental act. He said Lincoln was mistaken that the world would little note or no longer remember what we say here. Rather, the Bostonian remarked, the world noted at once what he said and will never cease to remember it. The battle itself was less important than his speech. He says 407 years ago, so basically 1776, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty, and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Okay, what is he including in all men?
Slaves.
Slaves. Did they do that the first time? No, Jefferson said, oh, we got to leave slavery out because that would kind of upset the South. He says, now we are engaged in this great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. We are met on this great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as the final resting place for those who have gave their lives so this nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate. Do y'all know what consecrate means? Consecrate? I always think about it in church. I'm Catholic. The Father, he takes up the bread and he takes up the wine and he consecrates them by making them holy. And we take the wine to become what? Blood. And we take the bread to be what? So he says we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, make holy. We cannot hallow, that's another word for holy, this ground. Whoa, gosh, isn't that what you want to do in a funeral? Make this ground holy so those people could go where? Heaven. He says we can't do that. Why are we here, Lincoln? Okay. He says these brave men, living and dead, who struggled here have consecrated. So what did these men do by fighting? They made this ground what? Holy. Far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note no longer remember what we say here, but it can never forget what we did here. It is for us living, those sitting here in the crowd, rather to be dedicated to their unfinished work. So he's like, they're dead. They've done their part. Who needs to do their part now? All of us sitting here, right? The living. Their unfinished work, which they fought here, have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be dedicated to the great task remaining before us. From these honored dead, we take an increased devotion to their cause, for which they gave their last full measure of devotion. Oh, what was their devotion to end? Is he taking a firm stance now? Has he changed what we're fighting for? Originally, we were fighting for what?
Union.
But now he says we're fighting to what? Stop slavery. Is anybody going to want to help the South? Does he need them to stop getting foreign aid? All right, we'll finish this up next time. But we know he changed the